You think if she hot, right? People will be like a lot. She'll have a lot more support.
She'll be the Natalie Xiao. People go and follow her.
Well, it just takes for her to be hot for us to be dying of COVID. Think about it.
Life is that easy.
Is healing the divide dividing the healing? This is your daily catch-up. I have no idea what they're doing. Alright, so if you guys have been reading the news, a name might be quite familiar to you guys. A name called Iris Koh.
Google Dolls.
No, yeah.
Actually, it's a great song. No, so Iris Koh is the co-founder of a group called Healing the Divide. And while that sounds quite altruistic in nature, it turns out they're actually a group of anti-vaxxers.
Right.
So hearing from someone in our production team who actually joined the group before she actually understood what it was all about, it turns out that it started off by being a group that wanted to help those who were not vaccinated or like anti-vaxxers because they cannot enter malls and buy groceries, right?
Not really anti-lah, it's like they were more concerned.
Yes.
Because it was the earlier days of like the vaccine being introduced and such.
Which all of us were concerned, to be fair.
There was a lot of uncertainty and things like that. And so those who chose to put off having the vaccines to get a group of people who can actually, buy them groceries and supplies and things like that. But then the group started to become a little bit more extreme. So like some of the things that like the group has done, right, through the leadership of Iris Koh, was to like jam like hotlines, information hotlines, for example. So like they got a group of like 2,000 people to purposely call the hotline so that no one else can like call. So like this was just one of the few things she's done, right? I think the more controversial one, or like the more illegal one, was that she had a scheme with a GP to help anti-vaxxers get vaccination certificates. So they would say that we got vaccinated using the Sinopharm vaccine, but actually they didn't.
Right. As in, she's in jail presumably.
She has been
charged.
She's in trial now.
So she's been charged, and then the bail was for $20,000. So let's name and shame some of them. So the GP, his name is Dr. Gibson Kwah, 33 years old.
Gibson Kwah.
And the assistant who claims that he was just doing his job is Mr. Thomas Chua Che Soon.
Thomas Chua Che Soon.
But on his IC, his name is Chua Che Soon Thomas.
Chua Che Soon?
Thomas.
From which clinic?
Doesn't say, but I think might have been like
commenters,
Dr. Kwah and
which clinic?
No lah, bo liao lah.
Horrible, which hands?
So
we are joking, please.
Guys.
Let's take back the names that we put out just now. To repeat, they are
the name Thomas Chen Chua.
So this falsifying thing, right, was happening apparently between July 2021 to January 2022. Then on January 2022, Iris's charge was upgraded to a more serious crime of like conspiring to lie to the MOH lah, which makes sense because they were falsifying documents. And so this particular new charge, right, is punishable up to 20 years jail.
Damn.
And then on February 4th, Iris was then granted a 20,000 bail, but then was slapped a new charge of obstructing a public servant in discharge of her public functions.
Because of the jamming. Her idea.
I feel like she learned this from TikTok. There was the period of time where Trump wanted to have his rally, right? And then all the TikTokers, the Gen Zs went in to buy up all the tickets so that his rally will be empty.
Yeah, that's what 50 Cent did to another rapper. So.
Jaru or something.
Jaru gangster, right?
Where is Jaru?
Wow. He buy out the whole front part, then nobody seen.
When this topic came out, I never thought we would bring up 50 Cent and Jaru. That's crazy.
Hey, nice.
Bringing this back to Iris Koh. So like, according to her, right, she describes herself, or the Healing Divide, they're not anti-vaxxers, but they're intelligent vaxxers, again, quote unquote, Iris Koh. And so she basically, like, the whole vision statement or mission statement is that she doesn't want the vaccination status to divide Singaporeans.
Healing the Divide is such a good branding, right? But then when they label themselves as intelligent vaxxers, then they immediately force you to assume that everybody else is not intelligent. Then
no, but it's similar to that like gay conversion therapy like movement. I can't remember what it called. Like it's like a misnomer. They try to play with like the name of what they're called. What's it called lah?
Conversion therapy, or?
No. But they have a
True Love Is.
True Love Is, and then they're saying that we are supposed to like respect everybody, but actually it's a disguise like.
That's alleged. We don't want to be sued by the church.
But anyway, like so they go so far, right? So like some of the arguments that Healing the Divide brings up, right, is that they took a screenshot of the Singapore Constitution and said that, you know,
I never read that piece of document.
Yeah. Okay, if you guys want to really look this up, right, it's paragraph 13, part 2. It states that subject to any law relating to the security of Singapore or any part thereof, lawyers speak, public order, public health, or the punishment of offenders, right, every citizen of Singapore has the right to move freely throughout Singapore and to reside in any part thereof. And so she's finding like fault with the idea that you cannot enter a mall just because you choose not to be vaccinated.
Right. Oh my god, Singapore gonna have our First Amendment.
It's true. But it's true though. Because to be fair, right, like initially they just say like, okay, if you for whatever reasons you cannot, you choose not to, right? It was okay at the start. But then slowly they just keep changing the rules.
The goalposts shift.
Yeah, until it forces everybody into a corner already, ma. So if you don't have a choice, then
which is very painful when people do shit like this, because like I think we said this story before, but I'm gonna repeat it, right? That the three of us were involved in a church shoot, and then there was this very sweet old lady. She was actually one of the few people that came in, right, and thank everybody individually for their time on their weekend to help do this for our little church.
She was the nicest one amongst
She was
everyone.
the nicest, but she was also the last one. So the interview was like, what's the hardest thing you had to go through? And she talked about how her mom died. Oh, that's a bit solemn. So she said she didn't take the vaccine. Then I asked her whether she took the vaccine, and she said she didn't. Then I asked her why, and then she said because she had a heart condition a few years back. Then we thought, fair enough.
Yeah. We understood that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. You know, like if my grandmother, I'd probably tell her, okay, why don't you just stay home instead? Right? And then after that, she said, no offense, but at least she died clean.
Like her mum.
Like her mum, at least her mum died clean, and her body is not tainted with fetus blood. Yo, I tell you, it's really the misinformation.
Yeah.
And I still think about it to this day, because we did something damn bastard that day. Or rather, we didn't do something that was damn bastard that day.
We could have.
Because we've been doing a lot of like information stuff, right, to help get this COVID messaging out. And so the first instinct was to, oh my god, we need to educate this lady, or we need to tell her, right, because she really believes it's fetus blood to the point that her mother died and she still don't want to do it, and she's the highest risk one. She's not young already. And then I look at each other and we look at Denise, and then we had this eye conversation like a,
Should we not? It's
been a long day.
Yeah.
And then we just like, okay, we move on from the vaccine, and then we just continue talking about Christmas.
But you can imagine.
And I think about it to this day.
Yeah, same.
Well, she's still in your church.
That's why.
I mean, you don't see.
If you say you bump into her again, will you?
I would. I mean, I don't know. It'll be weird, right, to bring it up.
He think about it so often though. You really eating him up.
Yeah.
Okay, like I don't want to assume, and also maybe a lot of people are assuming, and so there's not enough of like correction that's being like taking place, right? But I don't know what I can say to convince her otherwise. Because I'm sure there are people who have spoken to her about this, and she believes this so strongly.
Yeah. And like neither are we scientists, ma. Like honestly, mRNA, you know what is mRNA? Like I was not very sure.
But she's probably vaccinated by now, so she can go and watch Our Boys to Men already, right?
Our girls to
How dare
men.
you, she's a
I
very
mean, our
nice
girls
lady.
go up. Riding on John Paul's point just now, right? Is it not like partially the messaging's fault that like there are people that are so cautious about it or like so hesitant to take the vaccine?
I think there were two tracks of conversations that went out. There was one whereby it was a bit like America, where honestly, they don't teach their people how to think anymore. They tell them what they want them to think. And so they came out with those, it say it's good for you, is this. But by then there were many permutations of what's good for you before the vaccine already. And that's when there was a huge uprising when people suddenly understand why it is and why it is not. And that's why the anti-vax movement is very, very strong there. Because there were things that they found out that the government did not say. Whereas in Singapore, we took a different route. It was super transparent. They tell you there's risk. You might die. But we're gonna insure you. Yeah.
But then if you're cashy enough, it's like, the insurance not good enough and I'm dead.
Yeah, I mean, then the insurance actually started another ball of shit.
It's true.
Yeah.
But again, like I don't want to give a safe answer, but like this is the problem with like social media and creating like our own like echo chambers, right? Because if this was like the 1970s and your information is only from the 9 o'clock news or the 7 o'clock news or whatever, you are all going to take the vaccine if the news comes out and say, everybody, we all need to take the vaccine, bo pian.
Yeah.
Whereas now, because you have your own social, like algorithms.
Some people consume news from like the Daily Ketchup. That's fucking atrocious, guys. Don't get your news from here.
Yeah, thanks, but like, please read all sides. Like make decisions for yourself, lah. And
we're usually about like 3 weeks slower than the original release of the news.
It's really a catch up.
Yeah.
We are catching up.
We are slowing down.
So don't forget to subscribe.
Like,
for the latest news.
So like going back to this, right? Like Healing the Divide group is another echo chamber, or like I keep thinking like, why do people follow these groups, right? Or like join these groups? And it's really the echo chamber because they may have certain doubts. It may start with a 2% doubt, but then suddenly you join this group and then more people are saying things that you kind of like relate to or resonate with, and you go, oh my god, yeah, the system isn't telling us something, and then you start to believe that, lah.
But is that not the freedom of anybody to join any type of group? So for example, you all have personal interest, right? Like, say right now, like crypto, you're all into crypto, right? I'm sure you're going to join some community, right? But now the coin doing like shit or whatever, or maybe the project too. But at that point of time when you're riding that high, everybody also believe it, and it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, but I think it's about having the ability to then say when the coin goes to shit, go, okay, this person wasn't saying the right thing, and then now, okay, it was a very expensive education to now be very wary of who I listen to. But I think when it comes to a lot of groups like this, right, especially when you get indoctrinated, whenever something doesn't quite fit the narrative that they went with, they usually find a way to find a new reason to actually why this was not accurate. And I think to keep reeling people in, lah. Again, I don't know if this is the case with Healing Divide, but I know a lot of people who are into very extreme groups that they always find new explanation or excuses as to why something turned out differently or wrongly from what they predicted.
Yeah, I feel like any group that you're gonna join, it's the onus is on you to be critical in terms of anything that you are processing or being part of.
Yeah.
So when it comes to situations like this, if it's a group of common interest or common cause or whatever, go and join, go and participate, because you're going to find community that you can engage with.
Iris Koh community.
Yeah, but then with that same critical eye, you have to be self-aware in that sense.
Yeah, so when people are not being self-aware or people are not like being informed enough and form certain views because they join these groups, right? Like, is it wrong for the government to step in to try and recorrect this, or is it not? And we should give people freedom to like join whatever groups.
So I saw a video recently, right? You know, there's this, like, especially this movement, especially strong in the West, whereby they are like, really Facebook. But I never really get it because maybe I grew up in capitalism, Singapore. Yeah, whereby okay lah, that guy also trying to make money, what? You know what I mean? Like, is it weird though that you created a machine that got so successful that now the world expects you to police anything everybody says? Like, and then that cause, it no longer makes sense to them. You know what I mean? Like, I was actually kind of on the side of Facebook, but I think quite recently, I think just a few months back, or it was a re-uploaded video of something old. Sacha Baron Cohen was addressing, I think, maybe UN or somebody, and he was saying that basically Facebook allowed politicians to campaign with misinformation. And when questioned, the Zuck said that it's his right, it's like people's right to say what they want to say, and he cannot censor.
It's the First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Yeah, in that sense lah. To which I'm like, okay, fair enough. Because indoctrinated this way, right? And then he talked about how if Facebook existed during Hitler's time, then because it's narrative, because I forgot, it was a very elegant way of saying, clearly, once again, it's Sacha Baron Cohen, right? It basically is saying how different ideologies, even though it might be different or might be wrong, it still plays an important role in helping people discern different information and then make a decision on that stuff. And if Facebook existed during the era of Hitler, then basically he won't be running an ad to say eliminate the Jews. He will say, let's populate like the Germans lah. Let's be German. Germany should reclaim our country. Yeah, as another way, and the ad will have ran. Yeah, and that world would then have agreed law in that sense if we did not police lah. Yeah,
I mean, since you brought up Sacha, right? Like, one of the best like projects that he's ever done, right, is this series called This Is America, which I've introduced to a few people. Go and watch, check it out. It's awesome.
It's really good. Yeah.
The moment he found out that Trump won, right, he straight away created this project, Go to America, just to show people how stupid the politicians are and people in the system are. Who are you believing in? What do you believe in? Who are you listening to? Right? Who is leading you? And I feel like this is the same thing that Iris is trying to do, but it's just not that well thought out and not executed in a way that gets you thinking properly. like honestly, the initial intention was very, very good. Like to just support the people that need it,
altruistic,
right? Help them buy groceries or whatever, right? But then after it becomes so antagonistic and like a lot of people also say, like, if you go and become the complete opposite, right, and you try to fight whatever you're fighting with, right, you will never solve the problem. Yeah, you need to set aside those personal like egos and all that kind of thing, and try to really figure out what's the core of the problem, and then you can resolve it, right? But because of social media, because of the way people think nowadays, and are so influenced, right, we always just end up at one extreme end of the camp, and then we forget that to actually solve the problem, we need to
so like
take a different stance.
On that note, I'm also wondering, because I feel like I personally have some sort of like if someone say they don't want to take the vaccine, I'm like, why? Like, as in, to me, there doesn't seem like there is a reason to not want to take, you know what I mean?
They have one cure-all reason, lor. The cure-all reason is that there has been no long-term studies that
there has been mRNA vaccines have been in the studies for 10 years though.
Yeah, but I think the problem, right, is that whenever someone feels like they don't want to take the vaccine, they are met with instant resistance from people who
so that's what I was gonna
vaccine.
say. Like, I wonder if we kind of like drove them to such that this is the only place where they could feel, in a sense, hurt, or that they could feel like there were people that were relating to them and willing to talk about the issue openly.
So, but again, right, if say you open the floor and okay, let's listen to you, right? Who's going to listen?
No, but I guess so. This was something that Jon Stewart, and if you guys don't know Jon Stewart, if you watch Trevor Noah, Jon Stewart was like the predecessor, like the person that made Daily Show what it is today, right? He's back with a new show, and it's called The Problem with Jon Stewart, and it's fantastic. He really explores a lot of the problems that the US is facing. And one recent episode, he touched upon, what's his face? The guy that got like the Spotify...
Joe Rogan.
So he touched upon Joe Rogan and the whole incident. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Joe Rogan is actually, while he's an easy target, he's already good enough that he's listening to a lot of different views. It's just that the episode that he keeps getting called out happens to be an episode where he's bringing a contrarian view, but he's actually bringing both doctors from both sides of the whole thing. And like the wrong thing to do now is to ban someone like Joe Rogan. What you need to do is to engage with more people so that you understand why is it that they're feeling this way, and then talk to people who also feeling the other way. Maybe the only mistake is that Joe Rogan didn't invite both of them together on the same episode to discuss this together.
But at the same time, a lot of the a lot of the stuff that they're calling him out for are snippets of his like 3-hour long podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And he clearly states that like, don't listen to me, like I'm just a random guy. Even on his Twitter, or that he's also very adamant about that one.
And the other thing is that he's been very willing to be corrected. Like there's been so many times where he said certain things and he's like this, and then the guest would say,
our podcast, Papa.
No, but I think to be fair, that has been argued quite a lot. Because like Joe Rogan has been known to stand for things that even when you show him facts, right?
Yeah.
He still cannot believe. Like he still believe what he wants to believe.
I think regardless, like okay, like so I've watched more Jon Stewart than Joe Rogan, but like what Jon Stewart managed to do was to pull out certain extracts of moments where Joe Rogan has said, okay, fine, let's look it up, and then he gets his producer to look it up like live, right, and go, oh shit, okay, you were right. And then now all his listeners who maybe have a certain view now are educated that this is like the right
thing. Which is the basis of how POFMA is created in Singapore. The government doesn't want you to delete it or take it down. They just want on the same place you correct it.
Yeah, so that you have that misinformation, but you also get the correct information that in that sense lah. So right, Iris Koh, turns out that she has a lot of supporters. Again, we don't know how much the money is divided, but it could have been one donor lah. But she managed to raise $96,000 thus far, and then she decided to transfer her money to a crypto wallet. Because she says that she's very scared of the government like freezing her bank account and things like that. And
sorry, this money is for what? It's for her legal battle.
Initially, it was for like the bill and for like legal fees lah.
Right. Okay.
And then she managed to raise like $96,000, which is actually not out of the question. Like when it comes to like freezing money, because Canada, if you guys didn't read, so basically there was protesters by truckers in Canada, and the Canadian government didn't want that to happen because truckers move like goods, right? And so what they did was that they evoked the Emergencies Act to allow the government, right, without any court order or whatever, to freeze specific bank accounts. So they froze like the protesters' bank accounts.
What?
Yeah, and then everyone said this was the greatest advertisement for crypto than any.
Because people were starting to donate money to the truckers to let them to continue this strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now they freeze, and then now they are transferring crypto.
The government is
anyway. Back to Iris Koh.
Iris, sorry, so many detours.
Yeah,
like she moved her money into crypto because of fears that like the government will like freeze her account or like take her money away lah. I think I was very curious, can this actually happen? And it turns out that if the police have a reasonable suspicion of you having like doing criminal activity of some sort, they can actually freeze your account.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's like how people who scam money, they'll get their bank account frozen so they can recover the money, right?
Yeah, no, it's just that I always thought that you needed like a court order, and it's not like a long process. You just need like
should they have that kind of power over you though?
So it turns out, right, you actually need a court order to reinstate the account. Yeah.
Right.
The court order comes after that. Also, there are some accusations online that Iris Koh is using her newfound 15 seconds of fame to milk it.
You think if she hot, right? People will be like she'll have a lot more support.
She'll be the Natalie Xiao. People go and follow her.
It just takes for her to be hot for us to be dying of COVID. Think about that.
Life is that easy.
Her Telegram group will, instead of 3,000 people, will have like 30,000 people.
Our life is that hard, but the rest
you
of
kena
us.
COVID, right? What was the experience like?
Nothing.
But Pat, I see Pat's Insta story like Pat like going to die.
Pat one quite jialat, Okay, I tell you what's weird though is you get this sore throat and this sore throat feels different from any other sore throat. Like I eat a lot of like fried food, so I always dealing with like a 10% sore throat at all times kind. Like most of the time.
What a way to live life.
But this time, this sore throat really different. It doesn't hurt more. I want to be clear, but it feels different.
So
it feels scratchy.
It's so strange because I have two other friends who also kena Omicron, right? And they said the exact same thing. I cannot describe it, but you get a weird sore throat you never had before. No, but so it's so crazy because he said that to me, and then I was in Malaysia and I was stuck there because some family members got COVID. Yeah. And so then I started getting paranoid because I had a weird sore throat that I've never felt before.
Yeah.
But I was negative all the way.
Were you all afraid though? Because like my brother just kena. Then he kena already, right? Then like straight away we...
Wait, didn't you have sore throat like last week?
Don't you stay in the same room as him?
No, so I self-isolated for like 72 hours or whatever.
Different corner of the room.
I also do the checks and all that lah, right? But he got picked up and he went over to a hotel because my grandma lives with us.
Yeah.
So straight away we need to just kick him out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But then so at first, right, we approached it with a very logistical mindset, right? But then I start to think like, what if this guy just gets more and more sick and then he just die like in the next 3 days?
Yeah, there was this couple in Singapore, which I'm sure there's many. This husband that got it and then he just says he just packs up and he's a very, very loving old couple and then they just sent him to the hospital and then he just said, I'll see you in probably 2 weeks or whatnot, right? And then he dragged for months and he died in the hospital. And can you imagine as the spouse, your last contact was worried that he got COVID, you go to the hospital, you never see him for months, and the next time you see him is the funeral.
Yeah. Like, I keep thinking about that now, so I'm quite scared because my brother's still in the...
And you cannot hold a funeral.
You cannot even see...
cremation.
Right. You can't see the body.
Yeah. That's mad. Can you imagine that lady though?
It's scary. Then I also keep thinking like, we all are kind of like treating it very lightly. Yeah. In fact, it's almost like it's annoying lah. All these COVID procedures and whatnot, it's like annoying for us. But you think about it, right? If you really kena, then you die, or your loved one kena, and then because of you or whatever lah, but then just die like that, right? Yeah. It's still quite a fucking scary disease, and I think too many people are playing it off. That it's just like, you just faster go and get. It's just a flu. 3 days, then you okay already.
But granted, we got the vaccine,
Vaccine like or not lah. I mean, it might help, but it also might not.
Like when I first got it. And Pat haven't got it that time, right? Which when I get it was very light. It was like sore throat here and there, right? Then I was telling Pat, like the first thing I said to Pat was that just a year ago or 2 years ago, right? If you get this, right, you die leh. But today we're just playing you know what I mean? Like I just tell her I want banana. I tell her what to go and buy to put inside my room so I can build my little.
You go and sneeze on her.
But
right after you say we don't want to play off anymore.
But there was a little window where you had COVID and she didn't, right? And it was on your anniversary. Like, how do you celebrate?
Oh, okay. So
such private questions.
A romantic story.
No, I mean not very. Yeah, we kind of order food. Then I opened the master bedroom door, and then she was all the way at the other end of the living room, lor. Then we put one candle in the middle.
So it's like,
and you wonder how she got COVID.
No. I think we got COVID together.
Yeah, but the fire,
it's just that
the candle burns away the COVID.
It's always right in the middle. Yeah, let me say.
Hey, it's quite insulting. Okay, like whenever I open the door, right, to put like trash or my like cups or whatnot, right, I will wash the cup with soap and all that stuff because I was not coughing. I only had that sore throat, so I'm not really like spurting fucking bacteria, right? I will wash my hands, everything. Then I wash the thing. Then I will put it outside with mask, and I will say done. And I walk away from the door. Then you can hear Pat pick up that thing, right? She fucking sprayed the whole thing. Then you feel like, oh, that's me.
So like, cause I was back in Malaysia when my mom had COVID, right? And then my sister also. So like, it was the guys that had to cook for like Chinese New Year and all this, right? And then we're all just like, wow, we all never cook. It's usually like my mom and my sister had cooked, right? So then we had to like figure out what to do. So when we cook, right, we use plastic, like plates lah, so that we don't have to like wash it. And then like,
wait, I feel like this is a bullshit story. You're all just Cause it's only the guys, right?
Yeah.
So you actually just order delivery, right?
Yeah.
Pretend
So,
like you're cook.
no, so that's what we did for the first 2 days, but then we realized it wasn't very sustainable because we would take half an hour on the Grab group order to decide what we all want. Then we were like, it used to be very easy because mom or sister would just cook and then we all just bopian just eat. So then what happened was that my mom and sister, right, will give us the instructions on WhatsApp, and then my house got CCTVs everywhere, so they will watch to see what we're doing to make sure that it's correct. So like
I saw the food, not bad
so like say if for
They
example
make advanced shit one like
So they
like
walkie
pig organ
talkie
soup
and
that kind one
instruct
like paiti or whatever, huh?
Like they walkie-talkie and instruct you.
Yeah. Because we got Google Homes also. So then like if like I'm not shredding it correctly, right? I'm not.
What year is this? Sorry. Yeah.
So if I'm not shredding something properly, then my sister will be like, use the other one, or like like the other shredder or whatever.
No, but they're like sick and all, right? Then
Yeah.
Like, wow.
No, but-
I still need to tell you this.
No, so it got to a point where like once my sister was like negative already, right? But she was still so paranoid as to not pass it over.
Right.
She was wearing gloves and masks, so that we usually like to play Scrabble, right? We were all playing Scrabble with gloves and masks and everything.
Then she cannot
It was
pick up the towel.
Yeah. So every time we pick up, then I would like just spray her, like spray the towel, spray everything. It was quite like fun and sad at the same time.
So all the instructions was for you to make like a peanut butter sandwich.
No, it was like we made like kueh pie tea, pig organ
they make
soup.
advanced stuff, advanced stuff.
Oh, like
Like-
legit.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
So actually, it was a blessing in disguise because it made my dad, myself, and my nephew learn how to cook all these like Nyonya dishes that my mom
What a
really
nice
cooked
bonding experience.
Yeah.
for the guys. Yeah, it was a good chance for us to give back.
Can you imagine you'd be like, you know what, I think I'll just go home and celebrate in Singapore. Mother
No, so back to this like whole Iris situation, right? Like, I think one of the conversations that we wanted to have was like on the idea of freedom of speech. Like, just because you don't agree with the majority, is it fair that you are silenced, or in this situation, right, even like physically, you're restricted already?
Yeah.
Like you cannot.
Or is this
go
like
to
the right
malls.
approach to approach people with like differing views, lah? Because I think if you stonewall them, even more reason you're not actually listening to why they feel some way. It's harder to educate them, and it's easy
Actually,
for them to feel.
were there dialogues like with people that were such concerned?
I think it's very difficult. Like say, for example, if you had a very extreme view and it was because of a particular religious leader, it's easy for that leader to have a dialogue with other leaders. But for this movement, there's no real leader besides Iris Koh lah. And it's like, it's very hard to influence or educate people without that very public education. Because if you really don't believe the government, ministers come out and also like educate, you're not going to listen to them anyway. They're part of the system, you know.
Actually, is freedom of speech really better for society?
Yeah, is it overrated?
Yeah, that's where I stand.
Me too.
You stand in the you don't want freedom of speech.
Yeah, no, like where is freedom of speech supposed to get us?
We have the freedom to question anything, right?
We still do.
Like through the right funnels. But again, it's all. If say they really.
Okay, what do you want to
change
say
their
now, but you
stance.
cannot say? You feel like you go to jail if you say.
Like, I think there are some like
Then you have freedom of speech, right?
every single person here is self-censoring right now.
Uh-huh.
Are we not?
So what do you want to say but you cannot say? Like that you truly mean lah, not like purposely want to insult some people. lah.
Yeah.
Singapore's
Yeah.
a one-party state.
Can say what? Why cannot say?
It's
Can
true.
say
It's
on-
factually true.
It's not factually true lah.
It's arguably true. You can argue that it's true.
Yeah.
No, but for me, I feel like freedom of speech is overrated because we're all self-censoring right now. I think that's a good thing.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. But how much of it are forces that are dictated by you, and how much are unconscious and manipulated by larger forces?
But
And then after, even if you break that mold, right, you're still stuck because everybody else is going to be the same. They are all still sheep, in that sense.
I'm just wondering whether like freedom of speech kind of like kills conversations, or is in a sense a cop out also. Like say for example, if I disagree with you, right, then you say, I can say what I want, I got freedom of speech. Then that's it already.
When you have freedom of speech, right?
Then that's so is
That's
it not so
how most American
counterintuitive?
Facebook video ends.
Yeah, precisely. Is it not so counterintuitive?
Yeah, like the main problem is like the reason why Fox News exists in America and they can literally say lies, right? Because they are protected by the First Amendment and the freedom of speech, is very, very dangerous.
Yeah. And I don't know why the West is trying to infringe that
Yeah.
that liberties on us. We're not sure what the upside is. And I was having a conversation with my cousin actually, because I booked a flight. I booked the tickets to When We Were Young festival in Vegas. And it's my first time going to Vegas and my first few times of my life leaving Asia. I'm not very well traveled, right? And then I realized I've been to like Bangkok, Malaysia, like the Indonesia, even to the Australasia parts, right? And I've never looked around and asked people, is it dangerous or not? I just kind of get it. You know, like you want to go to the streets of Bangkok, you also know it's not like safest country in the world. But what you see is what you get. You can kind of gauge the danger yourself. But then what I realized is that everybody that I meet that has ever been to the US, right, even John Paul inclusive, right, they asked him, is it safe or not? Like, do you keep your wallet with you or in the hotel? Because nothing feels safe. It feels like, because they got gun, they got gun, then they got knife, then their mugging feels damn f***ing serious, right? So do I keep it with me? Because even if I wear it under my shirt, all that stuff, knife point I'll probably still give. I put in a hotel, then they got break in, then you go and see their home fix, right? Wow, they don't even trust the, you lock, then they got the latch, then you can put the string. It's beyond that, right? They got their own little beer cap opening thingy that you latch at the door. Then like, why actually this place damn dangerous, eh? Yeah. Then you take a step back and realize this whole positioning that they've created for themselves, right, is so far from what I think they are. In the past, we kind of welcome that American dissent, right? When they come in, especially when we're younger, and they come in and talk about freedom of speech and how we have shitty press freedom and no democracy and all that stuff. But then now when they do it, it feels different, right? You look at it, like last time when they do that, you're like, yeah, actually this country still got ways to progress. Yeah, we are rich, but we still have ways to progress. But then now when they try and infringe that shit, then you're like, what the f*** are you talking about?
No, thank you. Yeah.
But then on the flip side, right, I mean, to play devil's advocate, or is it angel's advocate? Because I'm advocating for freedom of speech. But anyway,
depending whether you see it as a good thing or bad.
Like, I would think that people see the opposite as China. I love China.
No,
if you're watching.
So I think there's I think there's a difference.
I didn't even say what you wanted to say.
My social credit score go down, you never know.
I think there's a difference. I think freedom of speech is overrated, but I think we should always have the freedom to question everything. And I think in China,
what is the difference?
Because in China, if you question something that alludes to maybe the wrong answer, they straight away try to silence you in some way. I think allegedly, please don't kill me. Not that you kill people. I don't know. Never heard of that kind of stories. But at least like in Singapore, it does feel like as though if something goes wrong, as long as you're not alluding to anything unfactual or like wrong, right? You can still question, why did this politician do this, or why did this ministry do this?
And
you
so
can
then what
question
is the
those things.
divide between speech and questioning?
I think freedom of speech.
If I just end it with a question mark, then okay.
In some way, like, I guess like freedom of speech means that anyone can say anything that could be an untruth and package it as a truth. So like Fox News, that is it's a news outlet, is meant to look as though they are purveyors of truth, can say something that's completely untrue and people can accept it as truth, as opposed to saying, why did this person do this, and let that person answer for real. Right. And then I feel like that's a little bit different.
I have a random thought that I probably might not have thought through. That just came to me, right?
Roll with it.
Because to your point earlier, you mentioned how much of our thinking, right, is actually ours, and how much of it is actually higher forces shaping us, right? Which is true, I mean, to a certain extent, you cannot deny. But I will also wager the conversations we have on freedom of speech, right, is because higher powers, right, of the other side are making you talk about it. Because how often do we question the need to say what we want to say? Like, we live our lives, right, saying whatever we need to say to get everything, you know what I mean? There's very, very few things, right, where you need to evoke your freedom of speech, you know what I mean? And those freedom of speech is like when you want to change the law lah. You want to mold politics, not even question politics, because you could always question politics in your everyday life, right? You could always talk about it. It's actually for very, very specific reasons you would then want to evoke your right for freedom of speech, which 99.99% of Singaporeans, right, don't ever need to evoke this freedom of speech. But yet, this generation seem to talk about it very, very often. So how much freedom do they actually want that is from them, and how much is actually the purveyors of politics, right, that is trying to influence people to fight for freedom of speech? You know what I'm saying?
It also turns out that most likely when someone is trying to say that or fighting for freedom of speech, they're actually saying something that is dissent in some way lah, or something that is an untruth. I find, because that's when people are clamoring down on you and saying, hey, you can't say that. And that's when you say, hey, freedom of speech. Like if you're saying something that's true or factually correct, no one's going to say, hey, don't say that. Does
freedom of speech cover racism, for example, or like hate speech? Is it protected?
I think it's like cannot bring harm onto others.
Physical harm or verbal harm?
I think you cannot anger or create like
probably verbal abuse will be categorized under it also.
No, I feel like that's specifically in Singapore though.
Right.
The racial harmony thing.
Yeah, like if I say something very, very racist and then
freedom of speech.
Yeah, then I call freedom of speech.
In the US seems okay at TBH. Look at Trump.
No, but then those are bad examples.
So then,
right?
sorry, is cancel culture then
against the freedom of speech
a result of the American system of freedom of speech? Because the law allows you to do anything you want. So the people are using their freedom to clamp down on what the law cannot protect you from.
Yeah, so I heard this concept from
Really
a podcast that featured the writer of Rice Media.
Oh, it's damn good. Is it the Daily Catcher? Okay.
And he was talking about this idea of tolerance of the intolerant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's a paradox.
There is a book about that.
Yeah, then he probably got it from the book. Read that.
No, as you're telling people that you can go read the book.
Yeah, I think it's the title of the book.
Yeah, the paradox of tolerance.
But it's that very idea that if you cannot tolerate their intolerance, then if you're intolerant of what
you have to
got
be.
Yeah.
Correct,
the first one.
Yeah. Then you are intolerant.
Yeah.
Then how?
Which goes back to the whole thing that I mentioned about Jon Stewart, where I think if you're cancelling someone, you're really not engaging, and I think engaging is the solution so that people are talking to one another and we can understand and maybe heal the divide. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this episode of the Daily Ketchup podcast. If you like what you watch, remember drop us a sub, hit that notification button and like this video. We'll see you in the next one.
Ping, ping.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.